Welcome to Cultivated Live for Tuesday, May 21st. Is that the date?
That's it.
That is the date. I'm Jay Rosenthal. I'm the co-founder of Cultivated Media, the host of Cultivated Live. And let's do Brad. Brad.
Good morning.
I'm here with Brad Spirrison, the founder and CEO of Grown In. And this is Cultivated Live. Every day we do this live stream, and Cultivated, since we launched in November, our goal has been to be cannabis industry first, providing you, our viewers and readers, with the most important, insightful, useful, and timely information every day through our daily newsletter, which is Cultivated Daily, through this daily live stream, Cultivated Live. So we would love if you could follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and most importantly, get our daily newsletter in your inbox. How to do that is, it's either below or next to us right now. So go there, do that, all those things. On Tuesdays, I'm joined by Brad Spirrison from Grown In. We talk United States of Cannabis, the intersection of cannabis, policy, and politics. Brad, welcome.
Great to be here, Jay. How are you?
I'm good, Brad. I'm wearing not my normal thing, but those who follow closely know that last time we had on folks from New Hampshire, there was a hockey jersey hanging in the back, one of which I have now. It's number 44, which is pretty great. They sent me a jersey, which I love. We wish nothing but the best for the New Hampshire cannabis world. I think last week, this is actually one of the topics. It seems to me the House passed a bill, which we talked to our folks about, really free market. The Senate didn't like it, neither did the governor. So the Senate, I think, passed, or maybe they killed it last week. I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out from the New Hampshire people. But are you following that story at all?
I'm following it, and I just love the fact that they extended you the jersey, and I can't wait to get their famous pancakes.
Yes. Yeah, well, yes, they told us about these pancakes, which are worth the drive no matter where you are. So, Brad, we got a long summer coming up. My kids will actually be in camp in New Hampshire, so I'm going to actually look for those pancakes with our cannabis people.
I smell a remote.
Yeah. So what's that? Yeah, remote from the pancake house. I like it. I like it a lot. We actually going back to New Hampshire, we had it in our newsletter. The Senate passed a revised version and sent it back to the House. But I remember our conversation with the folks in the House. They weren't sure if it was revised too much, if they could keep their bipartisan coalition together. So we will see. But we did learn a lot that there's 400 something members of the New Hampshire House, but only 25 members, I think, of the New Hampshire Senate. It's a very strange state legislature.
Imbalanced, which speaks to the fact that they're the only New England state without an adult use program. So go figure. And thank you, Governor Sununu, for your leadership.
Sure. Which is temporary, by the way, because he's a lame duck. Yes. I will say, though, that what I've been writing in the newsletter, we've been writing in the newsletter, is live free, not high, is sort of how they're going for cannabis right now. But that's not the only place cannabis is in the news, Brad. We had a story today about the fundraising for Amendment 3 in Florida. This is, of course, the legalization measure in Florida. It looks like mostly MSOs, of course, at their latest filing, which was campaign filing, was like $51 million raised through March 31st. And I say March 31st because the measure didn't even get on the ballot officially till April 1st, so the next day. So they raised $51 million. They are up on the air in Florida. Did I show you this ad last week? You want me to play it again?
I could never get enough of it. Let's do it again.
What is it? There's one line and it's like, we are the home of freedom here in Florida, although our friends in New Hampshire might think differently. Here we go.
This year, marijuana is on the ballot.
In Florida, marijuana is already available
on the streets.
You have no idea what's in it.
Amendment 3 fixes that.
Most Americans have access to legal marijuana that is regulated and tested for safety.
But not Florida.
Most Florida marijuana is illegal.
It's produced using toxic chemicals
and can be laced with dangerous drugs like fentanyl.
Florida is the home of freedom.
Amendment 3 gives adults access to legal, safe marijuana.
And the freedom to make their own choices.
All while generating billions for better schools and safer communities.
While allowing law enforcement to focus on serious crime.
Marijuana is already in Florida.
Amendment 3 takes it off the streets.
Makes it safe, regulated, and responsible.
Take it from me.
Vote yes.
Vote yes.
Vote yes on Amendment 3. Safe, regulated, responsible.
Okay.
The Saturday Night Live commercial.
it has a vibe like that. There's also some lookalikes in it. Like there's like a Jimmy Smits circa West Wing in it. Like that first guy looks like Jimmy Smits, who was Matt Santos. He was running for president. I think he won in the West Wing against Arnie Duncan.
No, for sure.
What was Arnie's name? Arnie Duncan?
Alan Alda is all I can just think of.
Yeah, his name was Arnie, but I forget what his last name was. Nonetheless, Florida's going to the ballot in November. They raised a lot of money.
He was pro-cannabis back in the aughts.
Who was?
Josh was pro-cannabis even then.
Josh was pro-cannabis. Yes, I think there was a scene where they actually made the argument.
They did.
Maybe I'll find that snip and run it next week. How's that?
It'll be the West Weed Wing.
I like it. So Florida's going to the ballot. Now the polling, this is important. Previous polling, so outside of last week, we had it like in the high 40s, which is not great because it needs to get to 60%. Last week, we saw a poll from the Florida Chamber of Commerce who had it at 58%. So I think 58% plus a whole whack of cash is good news. The challenging news is, of course, Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is against this measure, lined up the state GOP against this measure, and looks to be raising money into the no campaign on the measure. And I've been thinking about this. One school of thought is like, this thing, if it passes or not, he should just stay out because why risk your political capital on this? That's one school of thought that I can agree with. The other, I can hold two things in my mind. The other, he actually has a real opportunity to fight two measures at one time, fight the legalization measure, fight the abortion rights measure, and really up his standing in the Republican Party. And he could bank that Trump wins or loses, it doesn't really matter, but he will have a strong position coming out of Florida. What say you, Brad? Which side of this argument do you come down on?
I look at momentum on the part of the MSOs, and I think the MSOs are going to be even more formidable. They have the winds at their back somewhat after, continued rescheduling news. And many, Trulieve and Verano, I know their stocks are up, Cresco as well. And the cost savings, to what percentage are they going to allocate cost savings from 280E reform to put into efforts like this? So if I were DeSantis, I mean, the abortion issue seems quite obvious. The cannabis issue, I think it's going to get bloody. And I think it has the potential of hurting him because I think that he's going to go up against a more formidable campaign than he ever anticipated.
Yeah, I think that's right. And he could do all the same things, leave cannabis alone or play a minor role like he's already voiced his opposition, but also look at the abortion measure, which is much more, even though it doesn't have strong support, has strong support from his base and Republican base, as opposed to cannabis where Republicans are almost as strong as Democrats in many cases. Exactly.
And we're going to find that out. And again, it's going to be a great test to see what a market, this is going to be a professionally battled contest where the 60% threshold is going to be hard to hit, but you're going to see, if we're already seeing on the air right now and we're at $50 million raised, I can only imagine what it's going to be like closer to the fall. I don't think it's a good issue for him. And, I'm curious to see to what degree it might be an issue in the presidential campaign and whether or not Jake Tapper and his colleagues at CNN are going to bring it up in next month's debate.
Yeah, interesting. That's a great segue. You didn't even know, Brad, because I have another thing already queued up. This was Joe Biden at the end of last week, making it official. I guess it was unofficial before that they're going to recommend rescheduling and kick that process off. 60-day comment period. I think a 30-day after that. Did you happen to see this on Twitter? I'm going to run it and then we'll talk about it.
Let's do it.
This is monumental. Today, my administration took a major step to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule III drug. It's an important move toward reversing long-standing inequities. Today's announcement builds on the work we've already done to pardon a record number of federal offenses for simple possession of marijuana. And it adds to the action we've taken to lift barriers to housing, employment, small business loans, and so much more for tens of thousands of Americans. Look, folks, no one should be in jail merely for using or possessing marijuana, period. Far too many lives have been upended because of failed approach to marijuana, and I'm committed to righting those wrongs. You have my word on it.
Look, folks,
It looks like he could use a little Visine.
If you had predicted when I worked on the Hill in 96, 97, 98, that Joe Biden, who was a young, vigorous senator then, or middle-aged senator at that point, would at some point say these words from the White House, it would have been striking, I think.
One of the authors of the crime bill. Now his political survival depends on to what degree he's in support of Dubage.
Yeah, the world moves fast, right? Well, it seems to be moving slow until you zoom out and realize it's fast, right? Like in the cannabis industry right now, it seems like things are, well, we're waiting for rescheduling. Now it has this like 60, 90-day period, and we're in the midst of an election, but safer banking still doesn't happen, all those things. But when you zoom out and look at the lens of you and I, you getting in trouble at university for smoking weed, like these things move fast. Like, this will not be an issue for our kids, for example, right? Like this is going to be, legal cannabis.
Particularly, as the more beverages come to place, and what's the difference between a beer and a 4 milligram sessionable take of some sort of cannabis beverage or anything else. Not only that, I see the reception that President Biden's getting in many states, particularly swing states, right?
Yeah, he was in Wisconsin. I think it was Wisconsin. I know he was speaking this week in Detroit at the NAACP convention and got praise there. Similarly, I think he was in Wisconsin, got some praise for his cannabis reform measures. Like this is an issue that I don't know if we ever thought would be on the front burner, but we've been writing in our newsletter that it clearly is. And I think back to Florida, it will be a front burner in Florida when President Biden goes to Florida in the next couple of months. I would be shocked if he didn't come out in support of Amendment 3.
I think things are so tight that it's hard to predict which issues are going to be teased out to become ultimately the ones that will help one of the candidates get victory. But between now and then, we have to take cannabis as a serious campaign issue at the presidential level in Florida and throughout the country.
And I said it first, I think, on something you guys did at Grown In. We had a panel about cannabis and politics, and that's sort of the seeds of this program we do every Tuesday. And so we often talk about Republicans changing their mind, even Joe Biden changing his mind and being an advocate. This weekend also saw a tweet from Sherrod Brown, Democrat from Ohio, More Perfect Union. So at More Perfect Union wrote, breaking, the Justice Department has officially submitted its proposal to reclassify cannabis from Schedule 1 substance to a Schedule 3 substance. Sherrod Brown, quote, tweeted that or quote X'd that. I'm not sure what we're saying anymore. It's time to legalize marijuana across the country. So even Sherrod Brown, who as early as like 2 years ago said, was more of a slow go medical approach. Now it's really others are capitalizing on this issue or have been moved.
What I like about it is, the narrow definition of rescheduling, which is, very profound, does not really. I love the fact that he says legalization across the country, where it's like, okay, here's this procedural thing that will obviously enable a lot, but it's not full out legalization that we're talking about. So he is using this to be on the extreme end. But to your point, things move so quickly. It's kind of like gay marriage. It's nonlinear timetable. By 2004, it was a wedge issue for Republicans. Within a decade, it was the opposite.
Yeah, no, it's moving fast. And Brad, next week we have in the know person coming on, not just you and I spewing what we know, but Joanne Caceres from Denton's. Talk a bit about your relationship with her, but also the background you have with her, because we're excited to have her next week on Tuesday.
Yeah, Joanne and the team at Denton's are among the most knowledgeable folks as it relates to any kind of policy and legislation. Their law firm, international offices in Chicago and throughout, they were tremendous supporters of the Cannabis Innovation Lab, which we did with 1871. And what I like about Joanne is that she takes nothing for granted. We have the 60-day period and things can go wrong. And I think she's going to talk about anything and everything we in the industry need to do to make sure that we can continue this momentum and get rescheduling implemented.
Yeah, we're excited to have her. That'll be the Tuesday, the 28th. It'll be right after Memorial Day for all you folks in the States. We had our long weekend yesterday, so we had Queen Victoria Day which is what we have in Canada. We call it May
Really?
24 here because there's 24 beers in a case, and it's the unofficial kickoff to summer. So I'm being serious about that. We did have a holiday. It's Victoria Day. But it is, I am excited for next Tuesday as well for Joanne. And Brad, tomorrow on this program, Jeremy Burke and I are my co-founder, but also the editor-in-chief of Cultivated Media. We'll be welcoming in Joe Rossi. He's the managing director and cannabis practice group leader at Park Strategies. He's one of the foremost cannabis lobbyists in New York, and he's going to be sharing insights on how he views the rollout of cannabis in New York, including the recent review of the Office of Cannabis Management, personnel changes at the OCM, and recent news of the shutting down of the $200 million social equity fund, which is actually breaking news over the weekend. You know Joe?
I know Joe. I think his firm has roots with former New York Senator Al D'Amato, who used to be called Senator Pothole, and I guess now it can be renewed in a completely different context.
I like that. Yeah, Joe, I'm excited to have Joe because, as you know, and we talk about all the time and write about all the time in the newsletter, New York is really where all eyes in the industry are, rightly or wrongly. But a lot of ink has been spilled about the rollout, the challenging of the rollout. A lot of ink now has been spilled about the reform measures or a tweak in direction from Kathy Hochul. Some feel that was too late. Some feel it's overdue. Or some feel like it's too much, too soon, or whatever it is. We're going to find out from Joe, sort of get a status check. That's on tomorrow's program, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on Cultivated Live. You can find it on LinkedIn and YouTube. Brad, as always, it's nice to connect with you on Tuesday morning to talk United States of Cannabis.
Always a pleasure.
I was thinking about getting the kids ready to go down to Florida at the end of October to campaign for Amendment 3. You want to meet down there?
Let's knock on doors.
That would be great. I like knocking on doors with kids talking Amendment 3. But also another shout out to the New Hampshire Cannabis Association for this awesome jersey. I did skate in it last night. It's clean since then, though. And I had a goal last night, Brad, which is very rare for me. Not to brag, but I had a cheap rebound goal. That's how I score them. I'm
looking for a hat trick from you 1 week from today.
You will not see that. I'll let you know how it goes, but there'll never be a hat trick for me.
Well,
I get too tired after 2 goals. What's that?
There'll always be a hash trick.
That's right. Brad, thank you so much. That is Cultivated Live for today. That is Brad. This is United States of Cannabis, which is our Tuesday morning show. We'll be back here tomorrow, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on LinkedIn and YouTube. And remember, Brad, when you're out and about today in Illinois, buy cannabis at your local dispensary.
Will do.
All right.